All right. I'm Joe Turner, and this is the City Manager Unfiltered podcast, the most influential local government podcast in America. This is my 50th episode, and I'm really excited to share this episode with you guys. My good buddy, Micah Gaudet, is on the line. He's with us. We have a very special announcement. We're going to get to that in a minute. Welcome to the show, Micah. How you doing, bud?
Doing well. 50 episodes, Joe. That's incredible. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I never thought in a million years I'd be a podcaster, let alone have 50 episodes. Most podcasts don't even get to, I think, 7 episodes, believe it or not. They just fizzle out.
But you got the face for podcasting, Joe, so it makes sense.
That's why I haven't started the video podcast.
Exactly.
Oh, man. So, hey, Micah, we have a very exciting announcement we're going to make. I believe it's going to be historic, and it's going to be a game changer. I know some people hate that term. I saw someone post about that recently about game changer being overused. I even saw you like that post, so I'm throwing that in there to rub it in. But I really think that we are on the verge of doing something that is historic, that's going to change the game. And for the last year, I've been talking about the coming paradigm shift to the city and county management profession. But before we get into that announcement, I kind of want to do the building blocks of why we're here. And that is sort of what I feel is really missing in this profession for a lot of us. The reoccurring sort of dominant theme of the feedback that I get from our peers is this sense of disconnectivity or disconnection, this isolation. It's lonely at the top. Yeah. And you and I, we got together as friends, you started following me back in the fall of 2022, right? When I first started posting. Mm-hmm. And you and I have built this friendship, this collaboration on things. And I want to unpack that in a minute, but you become a good friend. Obviously, we're doing this special announcement together. So we're obviously on friendly terms. And at the end of the day, I want more managers in this profession to have relationships and connections with other peers like you and I have. And that's kind of why we're here today, to be frank.
Exactly, Joe. I mean, you just think about just you and I and our friendship we've built the last, almost 2 years now. There are so many other people out there too. Like Joe, you and I talk about the different people that we've talked to through LinkedIn or things like that. And it's, and how cool it is too about you meet someone on LinkedIn, you talk to them, then you go to maybe a phone conversation, then texting them back and forth, and then you meet them at a conference somewhere and talk to them face to face. Like there is that hunger for relationships, that hunger for connectivity.
So leading up to this announcement that we're going to make, I've been reaching out to people that are in my Rolodex that I feel would be receptive to this announcement that we're having, and testing the waters and giving them sneak peeks of what we're doing. And the feedback's been amazing, by the way, to tease the audience. We're going to get to that, obviously. But I got a little raw, vulnerable with some of our peers, and I said, hey, I grew up in a really poor environment, sexually molested. My parents were drug addicts in jail. I was used to being betrayed by those closest to me. And frankly, growing up, I didn't trust a lot of people, and I carried that over into adulthood. So it's hard for me to form relationships with people as far as meaningful, close ties. And after you get through high school and then college, it becomes even more difficult to make friends as an adult, right? Because, your high school and college years are your prime sort of years to be making those connections that last a lifetime. And then you get into the adult, employment world. And then furthermore, you compound that by going into this profession, which is transient in nature and very difficult, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough to make relationships with people, especially if you're living in the community that you're managing. It's like you can't have relationships with your subordinates, obviously. You can't have the same type of relationship with your governing body. And even people that live there, you got to be careful about what you share, what you don't, what their motivations are, what the conflicts are. So it's a very isolating experience in this profession.
Oh, for sure. I think especially in the smaller towns, Joe, it seems a little bit more acute. And I'm sure you've experienced that in your time in Kansas. I know I experienced that when I was in Miami. And just like it seems so lonely. It's like you're the only one and your family's the only one there. It's extremely lonely.
Absolutely. And so it's like, I've been blessed over the last year and a half of doing this LinkedIn journey and the podcast to have new relationships with you and others. That's just been phenomenal. Like Daniel Rosemond, my buddy, obviously we've had him on the show for like multiple times to talk about his journey in Hallandale Beach and his lawsuit and what have you. Him and we regularly check in with each other. He's really good about checking in with me. He's just a stand-up dude and sees how I'm doing. Just a bunch of people in our network. And I know you have, built relationships through your platform with the Chat GPT and AI and so forth and so on. And, a lot of people don't know this, but the first time you and I met in person was roughly a year ago today, back on April 19th. It sounds like we're dating. You're like my little bromance with Mike. But I drove my ass up from Wichita to Kansas City about 3 hours
Yeah.
to see you.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about it before in the podcast, but let's unpack that a little bit, Micah. So I drive up and we meet and walk us through your journey since then.
Yeah. So we meet in a hotel in Kansas City. We're sitting there in the lobby and chatting and talking about our dreams and aspirations. And I was telling you about this Chat GPT thing that I thought was kind of cool. And then you were like, "Hey, you should put together a course for it, right?" And then, okay, let's go do it. Let's put the course together. And fast forward a year later, over 100 different local government professionals have been trained to use AI and generative AI through this course. We launched a AI and local government network with over 260 members worldwide, one of the largest local government networks on AI. It just like, and it all started with a simple conversation, just two guys, kind of riffing and chatting, right, and
Yep.
spurring each other. That's the thing too, Joe. It's not just relationships where we just kind of sit on each other's shoulders and cry, which that's very important. I'll discount that, but it's also a relationship where we spur each other to try to go do hard things
Yeah.
and to push ourselves.
Build each other up.
Exactly. And push yourself, build each other up and say, hey, you can go do that. You can go apply for that job. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not put yourself out there? Why not take a risk? Because even if you fail, you know that you got they got your back. And it's gonna
Absolutely.
be okay. And that's the difference is that kind of relationship, that kind of, to use your term, Joe, that kind of brotherhood, that kind of sisterhood there, which
Yeah.
is just so missing within our profession.
Yeah. We meet in April, and literally from April to like the first week of September, you went from having no presence on LinkedIn when it comes to Chat GPT AI to having a webinars, having a course that you're actually selling and monetizing to over 100 different entities or whatnot. You are now doing the webinars and with SGR, you're monetizing that, creating a little side hustle. You've been killing it, and you've literally become the go-to name, the subject matter expert when it comes to Chat GPT in the public sector. And that's the power of connectivity, connection, this community that I've been talking about wanting to build with our brothers and sisters in this profession.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Joe, the thing that excites me is, I'm focused on AI and that space, which is a lot of fun. But where are the other folks? What are the other city managers that are passionate about something, right? Where are the ones that are passionate about housing and want to make a difference in this space? Where are the ones that are passionate about economic development, about building cities the right way, about infrastructure, about transportation, right? All the different areas that are important to our local governments and our communities. Where are those? Like they have to be out there, and they just need a voice to say, "Hey, go do it. Go do
Yep.
something bold. Go do something crazy." And make a huge difference in your community and in the world, in our nation and the world.
Yeah, and I don't want to pat myself on the back too much here, Micah, but you can I think validate this. But you had an idea, a thought, and I was a champion for you. And I said, hey, you know what, Micah? I'm going to do whatever I can to help you. I'm going to use my platform to platform you to help build your
Yep.
brand. I'm going to share it with you. It's not just me. It's not just a zero sum game where it's all about Joe Turner. Like I want to help you. I want to help you succeed. I mean, there's an amazing, powerful thing that happens when you have two or more people getting together, trying to, in a sincere and meaningful way, help others achieve their goals and aspirations in their life. And that's what I wanted to help you do. You're a go-getter, and I wanted to help you. I felt I could help you. And I want to share this passion that I have, that you have, for helping others, bringing other people together. I mean, because we have really talented people like Bradley Ford, I think in the podcast I just did, talked about there's a lot of talented people in this profession. Like,
Exactly.
hey, you just need someone to believe in you, right? Like there's a lot of people out there who are in our profession that have these ideas. And I want to say, hey, you know what? Trust those ideas. And you know what? Align yourself with people like Micah and myself and others who are going to help you get to that point, right? Who are going to be your advocates, who are going to be your champions, who are going to support you. That's what we need more of.
100%. And that's the key point, Joe, is that level of championing it, right? And if the only thing we do in life is champion others' good ideas, like that's a pretty cool thing to do, right? And
Yes.
we can flip this around too, Joe. Talk about AI. We can also talk about the fact that you and I were talking about this podcast, right? And you
Yes.
said, "Hey, I want to go to this podcast." I was like, "Go do." I don't know anything about podcasting, right?
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
first thing about podcasting or how hard it is, but I was like, "Go do it, Joe."
That's
Put
right.
yourself out there, and here you are, less than a year later, only 50 episodes. Think about this, Joe. Like 50 episodes is a huge thing. That's a mile marker in its own right. But it's still only 50 episodes to get to the point where you are. The City Manager and Filter podcast is the nation's leading podcast on local government matters.
It's
Like
crazy. It's
that is
surreal.
crazy. That's crazy. In 50 episodes that happens, and that's because you and I were talking. I was like, "Go do it, Joe." Right? So
Yes.
it works both ways too, and that's the paradigm shift that needs to happen in our profession. Is instead of just looking out for ourselves and feeling lonely and isolated, we can actually support each other and
Yeah.
actually do some real, really, really, really cool things in this profession.
Very true, and a shout out to my buddy. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Brandon Dross, my good buddy, who was like the first one who planted the seed for me to be on LinkedIn and podcasting. He's a great dude, very supportive.
Yeah, we can blame Brandon for all of the trolling that
Yes,
Joe does
I
on
know.
LinkedIn.
But here's the thing, right? Ultimately, we want to help others feel connected, have stronger relationships because it'll make them happier, more fulfilled, more productive, and more successful in their personal and professional lives. And that's what kind of brings us here today on this announcement that we've been teasing so far for probably about 10 minutes now. And before we get to that, what I want to say is for the last year plus, I've been talking about the coming paradigm shift to the profession of city and county management. I've just sensed the momentum changing. There's just a different vibe out there. I mean, when I first got on LinkedIn a year and a half or so ago, there wasn't really any conversation in the city county management space at all that was meaningful in my estimation. I don't want to sound arrogant, but there really just wasn't. I mean, it was a lot of congratulations on getting the new job circle jerks and the toxic positivity and the rah rah leadership memes. And then I started posting some stuff and making some commentary that was catching some people's attention. I started highlighting and spotlighting some of these issues that all of us have been thinking about, but no one was really putting a voice to it until I kind of arrived on the scene. And so I've seen this building of an issue when it comes to a variety of factors in the profession. And I don't know, what do you think about the paradigm shift that I've been talking about? I think you agree with it. I think you and I are literally at the forefront of it. Again, I know it sounds arrogant, but I'm just going to put it out there because I don't really want to be fake modesty here. Is you and I have been sort of at the vanguard of leading this change when it comes to this paradigm shift, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Joe. And when we say we're leading it, I don't want to say that we're alone, right? It's not an
That's
island
correct.
of people, right? There are so many people out there that are just fed up with the current status quo of this profession. We're fed up of being lonely. We're fed up of the mental health issue. We're fed up with the burnout that we're receiving. We're fed up with all this stuff like this, and we're finally coming to a place where, and that's, I think, one of the cool things that you've done, Joe, is you've helped us articulate the feelings that we've had in this profession for a long time. And again,
Yep.
I'm new to the profession, right? I've only,
Me too. Like that's
I'm
the
new
thing. You
here,
and
so
I, you and I are not
I
seasoned
can't.
veterans here.
Yeah. So I don't want to say like we've been thinking about this for like 10 plus years. No, I'm not gonna do that at all. But so many people, I'm sure you get the same thing too, Joe. Right? When I go to city manager conferences and I talk to people, I get this idea that like, hey, like, is this the best it can be? Is this what my career path is limited to, of just being lonely and isolated, or is there more out there? Is there something
Right.
else I can do? And there's this hunger for that, Joe. And yeah, I think you've given us a voice to be able to articulate this. You've been, no one's going to say that you're not a bold guy and you're not a guy that's going to speak your mind, but you're speaking the minds of a lot of us too, and you're putting things into words that maybe some of us just have been afraid to say, and that's okay to be afraid to say that. I get it, totally understand why people are afraid to say this, because careers on the line, livelihoods are on the line, mortgages are on the line, and so here comes Joe Turner along and says, "Okay, hey, I'll be that voice for you guys.
Yeah.
I'll be the guy that says something." Joe, it's almost like you often feel isolated, right? And then you realize that you're not alone, and there's just that kind of collective sigh that says,
Yes.
"Okay, I'm not the only one thinking this. I'm not the only one that questions. Hey, is my management association? Is this the best thing for me? Is this the best thing we can do, or is there
Right.
something better?"
Right.
Right.
Mike,
So
I've had
yeah,
so many people say that to me. Like, so many people say, "Man, I just it's like when I started posting these articles, there's like, man, it's just so glad to know that I'm not the only one dealing with this crap. You know what I mean? Like I thought I was the only one that dealt with a crazy governing body or something. Like no, there's a
Exactly,
lot of folks out there
exactly.
dealing with it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
Like,
You
I
know?
remember Joe, my first so this is a funny story. My very first council meeting as a city manager, as a town manager, right? I got sworn in the previous time. There's all like,
Yeah, the
pomp and
ceremonial pomp and
circumstances kind of
yeah,
thing. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. The very first one, my council body voted down a consent item to approve Black History Month. And so I came home, I was like, tell my wife, I was like, "You would never believe what they did." And obviously that had some major consequences, and we did a lot of work to train and educate and talk about the value that Black Americans bring to the profession, bring to their city, and bring to the nation, and kind of did some corrective teaching on that. But like that's day one. I'm thinking, man, what the heck did I just get into? Like, what
yeah,
is this
yeah,
profession, right? And
yeah,
it's isolating because there's like, when I mention other people are like, I can't believe they did that, right? And there's no real, like, it's just so unique, and so to see, okay, hey, there's a small town in Kansas that did something, equally as stupid, and it's okay. I'm not alone, and
yeah.
I can talk about this, and it's okay.
Absolutely. And the reason why I've been talking about a paradigm shift, Micah, is because as I've been posting about this stuff over the last year and a half plus and been getting this feedback, the things that we are enduring as a profession, as professionals in this profession, it's not sustainable. Something has to give. When I look at the issues that are out there, these pressing problems, these issues that are not being addressed, we've already talked about the isolation, the disconnectedness, the loneliness at the top, the burnout, the mental health
Hmm.
issues, but the absolute risk and volatility in the profession has skyrocketed, and that brings along with its own set of challenges. You have length of tenure shrinking, the political climate is more caustic and divisive. Social media is a sewer, as I've talked about, right? There's so
Yeah.
much negativity, rumors, innuendo. So I've been making the rounds, and I've talked to dozens of city managers in one-on-one phone calls over the last couple of weeks leading up to this announcement, right? To give them a sneak peek. I had one city manager recently tell me that their adult daughter was getting text messages from people in the community because of some smear campaign that was being put up on a social media, on a Facebook group or what have you. He's like, my daughter shouldn't have to be dealing with this crap. You know what I mean? It's like, think about it,
Yeah.
just, and that's just,
Yeah.
that's not uncommon, right? That's not uncommon nowadays. It's just crazy that people have to deal with this.
Yeah, civil discourse is just at an all-time low. I mean, you just in your last episode, Joe, you were talking to a guy who on that very topic, about the topic of civil discourse in our council meetings. Is what does it look like in public, calls to the public or things like that.
Yeah.
Like civil discourse that is such a low, and who is normally the brunt of that? City managers.
Yeah. There used to be a time in this country, I think it's fair to say, where city managers were kind of revered and respected by the governing bodies, right? And now it's almost, and even by the public in general, but now it's almost like there's a devaluation. I had a conversation with someone recently about this, a city manager, talk about the devaluation of expertise and knowledge on the part of city managers. It's almost like this idea that anybody can go and Google it. So apparently everyone becomes an instant expert because they can Google city managers and how to be a city manager, right? And I've talked about how it's so easy a caveman can do it, right? Where mayors just think they can step in and be the city manager or whatnot. It's really crazy, in my opinion, when you start seeing city managers who have to endure the risk profile that we have to endure, and you have to have a certain degree of skill, education, experience, and talent to be successful in this position. And yet we have city managers that are paid closer to the minimum wage than what the city attorneys are getting paid oftentimes in these communities, right? It's like this idea that a city manager, if you're paying a city manager more than $100,000 a year, right, more than $50 an hour or something, they're overpaid, and it's a robbery on the taxpayers. But no one gives a shit about the city attorney who's getting $300 an hour.
Exactly. And Joe,
It
think about this.
boggles my mind.
Think about this, Joe. I'm gonna say this, and I don't want to trigger you, Joe.
Okay,
So I'm gonna do my best not to trigger you here. But you think about, like, within the ICMA Code of Ethics, there is a provision that I think it's not a tenet itself, but it's like a subtenet or something that talks about that a professional commitment is 2 years of service. And
right.
to me, I think the reason why they have to have that in there is because they know in the back of their heads, this is such a demanding job. This is such a job where it's so caustic, so divisive. There's so much, there's so much crap being layered onto the city manager. Hey, just give us 2 years, please. Just give us
Yeah.
2 years, for God's sake. Just give us 2 years. And so that's the kind of idea that it's devaluing the expertise. Like there's no other executive level position or executive level group that I'm aware of. Maybe there's those out there. I'm not sure, but I don't know of a single other CEO that, other than the contract itself, where their professional organization says you have to commit 2 years or you're violating our code of ethics.
But here's the thing, Micah. How many professions out there even have a professional association where they can literally eject you from the profession, or not a profession, but eject you from the membership, right? Expel them and harm your livelihood because you supposedly violated the code of ethics. I mean, that's a pretty interesting proposition, you know? And ideally, if everyone's on the up and up and everyone's behaving fairly and impartially, right? And being consistent in how they apply the rules or the ethics, then I guess it wouldn't be much of a problem. But I have an issue with, obviously, with how they're applying some of those ethics. But anyway, I will say this, getting back to the paradigm shift and what's going on, family members are being impacted more so now than ever. Oh, actually, I want to go back to that point you just made. I just talked to a city manager this morning. Literally this morning, I talked to a city manager who was going through a situation where they were recently hired within the last 3+ months. Okay. And unbeknownst to them, when they were getting hired, it was not shared with them. It was not communicated with this manager. But in this upcoming election that's going to happen, three of the governing body members, three of the five, are not running for reelection.
Hmm.
Don't you think that might impact some of the decision making if you're a city manager looking to take a gig, to find out if three of the five who hired you are ejecting, and then you're going to have a random group of people who are coming in so early in your tenure, and you have no idea if you're going to gel with them, if they're going to support you or not. I mean, but you as the manager, remember, you're stuck with that 2-year commitment, right? No one,
Yep.
I love it because it's like you got a profession where city managers are supposed to make a 2-year commitment to the city. They're expected to be invested in the community. They want you to live in the city. They want you to buy a house and be invested. But yet everybody else is not invested in the process. Anyone can leave and quit whenever they want. They don't have to run for reelection. They can fire you on a simple majority vote. And, it's just a complete imbalance in this equilibrium as far as this exchange of obligations and expectations and demands on you as the professional. It just, it frustrates me. It frustrates me, Micah.
And Joe, going back, so there's so many people who are frustrated with this too. They're frustrated with the lack of support. They're frustrated with the loneliness, right? And that's
Yep.
where the paradigm shift is happening, right? And there's two ways that this could happen. And this is why I believe so much in the city management profession is you could have a paradigm shift, and we see this in our culture today. We see this where there's this idea of like, hey, our current system is not working for us, and you have the folks who want to just tear it down and dismantle everything. But you also have folks, and I think the city management profession is of this mindset is, hey, it's not working. Let's build something better. And I think that's where the paradigm shift is, and that's what gives me hope for this profession and why I'm still in this profession, why I'm still committed to local government and working in local government, making a difference, is because of that. It's because the people I talk to aren't willing to give up. The paradigm shift is happening, but it's happening for the positive, where we say, okay, if we're feeling lonely, let's reach out on LinkedIn and build connections.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so that's the difference, and that's what gives me hope for this profession. Is we're not throwing in the towel and saying, I guess this is the way it's got to be. We're saying no, it's got to be different, and by golly, we're going to build it different.
Absolutely. And Micah, it's like I've kind of shined a light a little bit, and people have been responding, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, that's kind of what we need to be seeing more of." When I talk about the compensation issues and how compensation and benefits hasn't kept pace with what's going on in the marketplace, it's not pricing in accurately the risk that we're taking in, all the factors that go into the negative aspects of the job. And what's really resonated with a lot of people, Micah, has been the advocacy, where I talk about
Yep,
defending the reputations of managers.
exactly.
We have a situation where separations seem to be uglier and more reputationally harmful and damaging than ever before, especially when we figure out the Google SEO standpoint. I hate
Yeah,
to say this, but literally, I've talked to dozens of managers the last 2 weeks. I just got off the phone yesterday with a manager. I know this sounds like a complete, infomercial or something. I don't mean it to sound that way, but I talked to a manager who had an unfortunate minor incident get blown up on Facebook and social media. And one day he's being told by members of his governing body that, oh, there's nothing to be worried about here, before it kind of blew up on social media. And then a week later, he's essentially fired because of what's being put out there on social media. And this was like a minor deal. And now he went to a situation where he gets fired. And then he had a hard time getting a job because people thought he was damaged goods. And he went a while without being able to get some work. And it's just like, what? All because of some bullshit on Facebook?
And Joe, we've all lived that. Like if
Yeah.
you've been in the profession more than 2 years, got us, tongue in cheek saying that, but if you've been in the profession more than 2 years, you've experienced that. I know I experienced that when I stepped down from my previous position as town manager and came to this place I'm in now. I experienced that myself. I sat in my office and had the mayor in tears begging me to stay, right? And then 2 weeks later, he's trying to fire me, right? like, like the same guy. And I think he's a good guy. I just quantify it as the different stages of grief, right? You went from sadness to anger real quick there or something. But we've all experienced this. We know exactly what
You
that
mean the
means.
schizophrenic nature of this profession, where you feel like maybe you're paranoid because are they really after me? Like, it's like, you,
Exactly. Yeah.
you could be doing a great job as a city manager, and you're still not sure you're going to get fired the next week because of all the craziness and the innuendo and the rumors and the speculation that goes on. One of the things that I've just to kind of put a fine point on this, Micah, at the end of the day, I get so much positive feedback on this point that I've been making about lack of advocacy for the managers.
Yeah.
And when I call out the ICMA on this, the ICMA loyalists, and there's a lot of them out there, we all know that. The ICMA loyalists,
There's not many, Joe.
maybe, we'll see.
There's a couple.
So when I talk about the ICMA not doing its job or abandoning managers or not fighting for managers, the loyalists will come out of the woodwork and say the ICMA's job is not to fight for the managers. It's not a union for managers. The ICMA's job is to represent or advocate on behalf of the profession, not the professional manager.
You can't have profession without professionals.
Well, I mean, that's my point. And here's the deal. Let's just say that that's true, right? Which, okay, apparently it is true because the ICMA won't do a damn thing in defense of a manager. I've had, Micah, the conversations I've had over the last year and a half are just so surreal. I wish the people who would talk to me on background would actually go out in public or give me the ability to mention their names in public and say what they've told me, right? Because it's shocking. Because the number of people that I
Yeah.
thought were like ICMA homers that were like completely hardcore, in my opinion, like pro ICMA, they talk to me on background and they talk about how abandoned they feel, that the ICMA doesn't do anything for them when it comes to supporting them as managers during tough times. And it's like, here's the thing in a nutshell, right? If the ICMA is not going to fight for managers, and that's the only organization in America, right, that's basically there for city and county managers, then who the hell is going to fight for managers? And don't they deserve to have a fighter for them?
Exactly, Joe. And don't they deserve to have someone champion them? Going back to our first point, right? Don't they deserve to have someone that says, "Hey, go after that goal"?
That's right. I agree with you 100%. And I will tell you, I guess now is the time to do the big reveal. I guess that's the segue into everything when I talk about not being, that there's not a fighter out there, that there's nobody out there representing the managers as professionals, is that you and I, we are going to launch an organization for managers called the American Association of Municipal Executives. And we're going to start fighting for managers. We're going to create an organization that is all about creating community and connectedness for these managers. We're going to talk about personal and professional development. We're going to push for really meaty, substantive discussions on how we can be better individuals and better managers. And then we are going to be advocates and fight on behalf of these managers. And if you go back and listen to the very first podcast that I did, episode number 1, You Are Not Alone, I kind of laid out my vision in that episode for what we're going to do with this organization, the American Association of Municipal Executives.
And the key thing too, Joe, I think is that this is not the Joe and Micah Association.
That's
And we
correct.
don't ever want it to be the Joe and Micah Association. That'd be a terrible association. But what we want is we want that community. There's so much professional experience and expertise within this. We're actually going to value expertise in this organization. And so if you have good ideas, like we want people with good ideas. We want go-getters. We want
Well,
people who are ambitious to come with us.
well, I guess I wasn't going to say this, but I guess this is a nice segue, Micah. Let me be very clear. We are not trying to be ICMA 2.0 with 13,000 members. We're not trying
No,
to have anybody who can fog a mirror, who can pay a couple $100. We are going to be a manager centric focused organization.
exactly.
And, and frankly, if you're an ICMA loyalist and you don't really jibe with what I do or what I say, by all means, stay over there. We want. I mean, I want savages. Okay, I want people who are innovative, who want to kick ass, who want to be the best city managers, who want to advance the profession, who want to be efficient and effective with taxpayer dollars. I want people who are hungry, that want to advance their career. We're gonna have obviously talk about membership and requirements a little bit later on in this podcast, but I want people who are aligned with our vision in terms of being effective and efficient with the taxpayers' dollars and being go-getters.
Exactly, Joe. We want people who are effective and efficient. Exactly. And really, Joe, like honestly, I don't think you or I really care whether or not someone's a member of ICMA or not. Like at least I don't, right?
No,
Like
no.
be a member of ICMA. If you have a good idea and you have something you want to contribute to this space, if you want to help build a community, if you want to promote the personal and professional development of city managers, if you want to advocate on behalf of city managers, and you want to do that, come along with us. And if you still want to be a member of ICMA, by all means, that's your choice. Like this is not the anti-ICMA organization. This is the American Association of Municipal Executives,
Yeah, let's
and
unpack that.
when we value city managers.
I'm gonna want to unpack that. So it's like, hey, we're not trying to be anti-ICMA, but we're gonna zig where they zag. To be frank,
Yeah,
I have no desire. I could give two shits about city managers in Ukraine or Saudi Arabia junkets or whatever else. I don't care. I'm focused on American managers, bringing value to them, helping American managers be the best they can be. And we're going to unpack that obviously as we move forward with this podcast and everything we're going to be working on. But like I said, I don't need to have a bunch of management analysts who have no desire to be city managers, but they're just trying to be a part of a club. I have no desire to have a bunch of individuals in members of this organization, the AAME, who are going to not be managers, but yet have some sort of voice or say on how city managers should be judged or what requirements they have to adhere to as managers. Like, one of the reoccurring themes I've received over these conversations I've had, Micah, is this idea that city managers in this profession and in their professional association, the ICMA, are like second class citizens. Everything that is geared towards city managers is about making them last, holding them to a different standard that others aren't held to. Like, it still boggles my mind that people can vote on rules and requirements for city managers in the ICMA that are not beholden to those same rules. I mean, that's just, I don't get it. That's not going to be the case in AAME. It's going to be manager focused, manager centric. You can be a member of the organization if you are a city or county manager, if you're an ACM, DCM. And if you are an aspiring city manager, you're welcome in, but you're going to have to be sponsored in by a manager. And we're not just taking a department head in just because you're a department head. We're now allowing elected officials in. We're now allowing vendors in just to basically be members and gobble up membership dues and as a cash cow.
yeah, yeah, and exactly, Joe. We are not anti-ICMA, but we are going to learn. Frankly, we're going to learn from the mistakes. We are
Yeah.
going to learn from the mistakes of that organization and the mistakes that they've made in not building community, not building professional and personal development, not advocating for professional managers and for city managers. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to advocate for them. We're going to help, and even too, Joe, too. And think about this. Think about how powerful this is. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a city manager but you want to be one, think about how powerful it's going to be to go get a sponsorship, to get into this organization, and be surrounded with professionals who actually want to make a difference, who actually want to grow your career, and actually
Yes.
want to see you succeed, who actually want to champion you to be successful in your career.
Yep.
Frankly, you're not getting that in any other organization within local government.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we can completely reimagine what a professional association for managers can be. We're not bound by the 100-year history of the ICMA. We're not bound by whatever precedent they set. You and I are two of the most innovative thinkers in the profession. This is going to sound arrogant. I don't care if it sounds arrogant. There's nothing that the ICMA can do better than us if we set our minds to it. I firmly believe that.
Exactly, because Joe, because here's why,
And we
Joe.
demonstrated it. I
Well,
mean,
not only and that's true too, but because we actually know what it means to champion other people. That's the thing we've demonstrated is that, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's I don't want this to be a Joe and Micah are these great guys, and Joe, I think you're a phenomenal guy in your own right, but this isn't just because of what you and I have built. This is also because you and I know how to promote other people.
That's
And
right.
we actually care about managers. Like we deeply do. Like you and I have such a heart and ambition to see city managers succeed that I hope that city managers listen to this, that ACMs and DCMs listen to this, come on board with us. Let's take this journey and actually build a profession the right way.
Well, Micah, again, I'm going to be a little brash here. I'm just going to be
You're gonna be Joe. Go
I'm
ahead
gonna
and
be
be Joe,
Joe.
man.
I'm gonna be Joe. Hey, Micah. I mean, in a year and a half, I built the largest platform, the largest, most engaged platform of public sector executives in the country. I got
Yeah,
the best
yeah,
podcast in the
exactly,
country. Never done it
exactly,
before.
exactly.
I got a newsletter that's the fastest growing newsletter. That's gets unbelievable engagement and open rates.
Yeah,
There's no You built a course on ChatGPT that, if we're being intellectually honest, there's no reason in hell this course should have been created by some guy that nobody heard of a year ago, and the organization that represents managers was basically sleeping and not building a course. Why didn't an organization that has 30 plus $1 million a year annual budget, a CEO who makes $600,000 a year, 100 plus employees, why wouldn't they build a course on ChatGPT AI? Are they're too busy putting out YouTube videos that get 100 to 200 views and that's it? You know what I mean? It's like it's just ridiculous to me that they are so behind the curve on the needs, wants, and desires of the city management community, and that's because they're more focused on chasing membership dues from a bunch of people who do not care about the profession, who are not engaged with the profession. I don't even know why
yep.
it's even called the International City County Management Association. It should just be the International Local Government Association. I don't even know exactly what they think they're doing that is so city manager centric.
And Joe, that's why there's this gap here, Joe. Is there's this gap where city managers are not valued, and we have this longing to have value, this longing for connectivity, and that's what AAME is all about. It's
That's
about
right.
that,
That's
right?
right.
And that's what we can do. We can actually build a community, and we can actually do that. And we
We're
have
going to build a community. That's absolutely
exactly.
right. We're going to take what you and I have experienced, what me and Daniel Rosemont have experienced, and we're going to put that, and we're going to leverage that and scale that out so managers have those types of relationships with other managers, and they feel that sense of connectivity, that sense of fulfillment, and it's going to be fantastic. And now let's talk about this community deal, right? The way I've been describing it to these managers I talk to is like, think of it as like a listserv on steroids. Like the listserv is, you send out a question and you get a bunch of answers through email, generally speaking, or whatnot. And what this is going to be is a hybrid of like a social media platform mixed with old school chat rooms, a message board, live webinars, and Zoom integration, all behind a paywall. So managers can actually have a conversation with each other that's a little bit more private, right? That's not subject to public scrutiny. Because one of the things that I've really found frustrating
Yeah.
over the last year and a half is that while I've been building this platform on LinkedIn, it's more of an audience dynamic as opposed to community. It's more me talking at or to people and them responding back to me, but it's not them having conversations with themselves and learning from each other either. And so we need to have a platform where there's more of a comprehensive conversation going on amongst each other. So we're having this more full throated discussion when it comes to these issues that are impacting us.
And Joe, so a couple things. Number one, if the message boards and chat rooms do not have the AOL "you got mail" announcement whenever I get a message, I am out. I'm just letting you know that's my requirement going into this. Kidding. No, but here's the thing too. Like white people want to say, oh, there's listservs over the other groups have listservs. We have these listservs over here. But what's the difference? The difference is this is, and I hate this term, but I think it's the best term for it. This is a safe space. This is a space where you can be yourself. You're not going to be prejudged. You're not going to be thrown before the court and said, hey, look at this guy. He violated all these different tenets or things like that. No, we're going to help you. We're going to come alongside of you in your bad days and your good days.
And the other thing too is the environment is going to be such that city managers can engage with other city managers without having other people eavesdropping on the conversation. This is not going to be a situation where management analysts and city managers are interacting directly in all areas. I mean, we're going to have a mentor mentee section, and obviously an
Yep.
area for aspiring managers to get feedback from managers and ACM, DCMs and things of that sort of nature. But this again, remember, this is a manager centric organization. We're focused on managers. Managers come first and will always come first. There's never going to be a situation where a management analyst is coming ahead of a city manager. That's just not going to be the case.
Joe, let's call it as it is, Joe. Right? Not only will management analysts not become first, and again, I have no problem with management analysts. It's a phenomenal profession, and I hope that all the management analyst professionals out there, like, keep working hard, right? Because you can go get it. Keep working hard. Keep being ambitious, right? I don't want to devalue that,
No,
but
because
let's
we're
not.
we're going to show management analysts how to get to the chair. We're going to that's we're
Exactly. So it's not just a matter of that we're not going to value management analysts more than city managers, but we're going to have the guts to say city managers in this profession should be valued more than management analysts when it comes to what it takes to be a city manager and what it takes to run a city.
Yeah. I got in trouble about a year ago, Micah, when I had the audacity to suggest that management analysts and city managers weren't equal in the organization. I had some individuals who are a little bit more idealistic suggest that we're all equal or something. I'm like, no, that's not the way it
And
works.
yeah, I mean, there's equality, and good ideas come from anywhere, right? I don't care what type of where you sit on the org chart. You can be a leader, and you can make a difference in your world, right? But let's not pretend that city management is the same as being a management analyst. It's the same as being a finance director. It's not the
Not the
same.
same. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
So getting back to like the community aspect, the first pillar of the organization is going to be community. We're going to be crowdsourcing solutions to problems. So imagine, Micah, you're applying for a city manager job someplace and you want some help with your contract. You want to talk about the negotiations. You want to get feedback from some peers. What we're going to do is have you log in. We're going to have a bunch of peers log in with you. We're going to jump on a call and we're going to talk about the contract, similar to what me and Bradley did on Taylor Tedder's contract, how we broke it down and analyzed
Yep.
it. We're going to do
Yep.
that in behind a paywall with other managers to help them get the best deal they can get, or help them talk about problems they might be encountering with an insubordinate department head or the manager governing body relationship with a mayor or some other things. And then we're going to just be able to share knowledge and be able to build connections and bonds with each other. So the community I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and Joe, we talk about pillars. I think what this is, Joe, is these are values. This is a values based organization. We look at community as a value, and I think that's such a key thing to
The most
hone in
important
on.
value, frankly,
Yeah, yeah. This is like we value community. We value community, and we value community with
connectedness.
like
Yep.
minded individuals, with professionals that are going through the same things.
Absolutely. So then we're going to talk about personal and professional development.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of issues that are not being talked about when it comes to city managers. I'm talking about personal finance, for example, mental
Yep.
health, just basically a lot of stuff on the personal front that I think we can talk about in more meaningful ways in a private environment, right? Talking about bringing in experts when it comes to financial planning and the like and so forth and so on, right, Micah? And then also professional development. I want to do deep dives into things like the contract, again, going back into that conversation about negotiations. But I talked to a city manager in a large community of 250,000 people or so, and this manager and I were having a conversation about how he felt that there was just a lack of meaty substantive discussions about matters of real interest to city managers at the current time.
Yeah.
This individual specifically was citing contract negotiations and the idea like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we started having discussions for city managers about how do we actually negotiate higher salaries and benefits in a way that does not put our governing body in the political crosshairs and put them in the hot seat and do damage to them politically speaking, so it's a win-win. You know what I mean? Having
Yep.
more of a
Yep.
just like, can we start actually having real meaty substantive discussions about things that are super important to us as managers?
I'm even another example, Joe, too, because I'm sure this has probably never been a topic at any local government organization conference. And that is the topic of how do you move on from a politically connected department head, say like a police chief or fire chief, these very high profile positions, like how do you manage through that? How do you manage through the disciplinary process of a department head as a city
Right.
manager, especially one who might be, very connected, someone, who's very involved in the community, someone, very community, community facing and things like that. Like, how do you manage through that? Like, those are things that, like,
Real
we
conversations we need to
we
have.
know we got to talk about that, but we just don't know how to do that, right?
We probably need to talk about servant leadership for the 1000th time. It's probably what we need to do. Is talk about servant leadership or talk about this other crap that's going on or whatever. It's just like, it's like the rehash of the rehash of the rehash.
Yeah, and Joe, there's something to be said. So I'm going to push back a little bit here, and you and I were just. And this is why you guys know this is real, right? This is why you guys know this is a real conversation. Is that, like, some of it does come back to servant leadership and how to actually live that out. But we've got to get beyond just the fluff of it. We got to get beyond just
That's the thing. Skin
the
deep, right? The first
exactly.
layer.
We got to get beyond just the words and the things like that and the terminology, and say, okay, how, as a servant leader, how do I go through and fire my police chief? What does that look like?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's eventually, like, that's the real thing. We want to be, at least I do. I want to be a servant leader. I want to value my people. I want to value my team members. I want to lead them in the best way possible I can lead them. And sometimes that means I got to let some people go. And that means I got to fire some people. But how do I do that and not have this dichotomy where there's a servant leadership side of me, and then there's this side of me that's like, okay, now I got to have a hard conversation and execute some kind of disciplinary action, would be termination or demotion, whatever.
Yeah. And the reality is you're walking through a minefield sometimes and you got to learn how you got to get a guide through that minefield because it can blow up your career if
Exactly.
you fire the if you botch the firing of a police chief or whatnot, it can ruin your career.
Yep.
I mean,
100%. And we all know that. And we all know
and
that. So these are, like, that's when we talk about personal and professional development, Joe, that's what we're talking about. The real stuff.
yeah.
Not the fluffy stuff, not the stuff that just gets you a certificate and you say, I have the certificate in this management style, whatever. No, the real, actual, practical things, the tangible things that matter.
And we need a comprehensive analysis of topics that provide actionable tactics and strategies to assist a manager.
Yeah.
We're going to one of the things I want to be very careful about because I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I want to underpromise and overdeliver. And so it all depends on what kind of traction we get. Although based off the feedback I've been getting with these phone calls, Micah, I think we're going to be in good shape. I think there's just a thirst and a hunger for what we're offering here with this association. But we're going to have a mentee matching. The idea of trying to train these aspiring or help these aspiring city managers go through the process and become a city manager. So we're gonna have a mentee matching. Kind of got that idea in my conversation with Kevin Richardson on that podcast.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got I got some ideas about members in transition assistance that we can do that I've floated with these managers and I've gotten really good feedback in. I don't really want to publicize it here now, but yeah, I mean, there's gonna be all these different types of stuff that really helps the managers with their personal professional development. And let's go to the advocacy, right? I've talked about this time and time again. You got managers who are getting lit up by governing bodies; they're being dragged across the headlines. They got the Google SEO footprint that is getting a lot of negative print that's hurting them when they're going to future jobs. And I believe that these managers need an advocate, someone who's going to go to bat and be a third party sort of voice that gets their narrative out into the media and so forth and so on, so that their side can be heard in a way out in the public domain, right? Because I just think for too long, these city managers have been fighting with one arm behind their back or with a muzzle,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that whole thing.
Exactly, Joe. And there's this need right here to be able to articulate both sides of the story. And that's what we're doing here too, is we're not going to let a deranged counsel say their side of the story without saying, "Hey, look, like,
Without a
this
rebuttal.
guy," with a rebuttal, right?
Yeah.
You take a guy like Daniel Rosemond, a really stand up and decent guy. I have his book. If you don't have his book already, go buy his book. Death of the Public Servant, phenomenal book. And you have guys like that who are trying to make a difference, but they're being drugged through the mud, and there's no recourse for it. There's no counter to it.
No,
And then you have guys like, then you have guys, and you mentioned this too. I think Bradley mentioned this in the last podcast. You have guys like Bradley who are actually championing Daniel and giving him something, right? Not a handout, but based on his expertise, saying, here's what here I got some things for you to do and provide value to his city. Like that's what we're talking about, not handouts or anything like that, but true advocacy and saying, look, if you fall into hard times, if you get fired without recourse, we're not just going to let it stand. We're not going to let it be. To
Right.
quote the great Lebowski, we will not let it abide.
It's funny. I've had quite a few managers reach out over the year and a half or so and talk about the feeling of isolation that comes when they go through hard times. Like Daniel Rosemont, for example, he felt abandoned, right, by a bunch of
Yeah.
his peers. I've had other individuals report the same thing to me. I won't, in on background or obviously in confidence, so I won't share it here. But we're gonna get past that point now. Let me put it this way: if you're going to be a part of this organization and you're a member and you get clipped or separated, the idea or days of having to endure that alone without any support, where you're just going to be ignored and you're just sort of going to be cast aside, that's going to change. That we're not going to be allowing that, right? We're going to be picking up our fellow brothers and sisters when they go through tough times. We're going to be providing resources to help get them back on their feet in a meaningful
Yep.
way, and not
Yep.
just lip service. I'm not just talking about, oh, let's look at your resume and tweak that a little bit. We're talking about real meaningful benefits and support, and we'll get into that obviously at a later time.
And part of that, Joe, too. Let's and sometimes let's call balls and strikes like we do, right?
Yep.
Sometimes it's a matter of, you know what? Yeah, you made a mistake there. So let me teach you how to learn from that mistake and get better.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
You
obviously,
know?
there's some people who make legitimate mistakes and they get
Yep.
fired, and
Yep.
but you know what? You can get a second chance, and we'll help build you back up, and so forth and so on.
Exactly.
The other thing that I've talked about, well, kind of extension on this is right. And I'll put a fine point on this one. I just want to ensure that there's a pro manager narrative in a lot of these instances that get out there, so that these managers have that ability to point to some. I want managers to have some good ink in the earned
Yep.
media section
Yep.
that they're
Yep.
not getting now, so that when they go
Yep.
apply for a future job, the governing body who's looking at hiring them can understand that there's two sides to the story, that they're just not seeing one side out there on the background check. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I also believe that we need to have more advocacy for better compensation and benefits. That's something I've been very passionate about.
Joe, this is the first time I'm hearing about this.
I
This is the
know,
first
I
time you've
know,
ever
I
mentioned
know.
this.
It boggles my mind that the ICMA has not been occupying this sort of area, this space when it comes to the profession. Because if you're an advocate for the profession, how do you come you're not advocating for better pay for the professionals who are enduring what they're enduring? This organization is going to advocate greater compensation and benefits for managers, and we're going to do that by educating governing bodies. I mean, it
Yep.
doesn't take. I mean,
Yep.
we're gonna apply private sector principles to this organization. I mean, you and I have a different mindset when it comes to approaching some of these issues and tackling these challenges. Again, we're not shackled to or bound by the past paradigm of just sort of sitting on your hands and not doing anything. No, we are going to go to bat for managers and educate governing bodies. I've used this example. Wouldn't it be great if one of our members who is a manager in this town or this city, they're sitting there, they're working, they're doing great work, and yet next door or two cities away, over 30 miles away, whatever comp is, the manager gets hired at X salary and benefits and whatnot. Wouldn't it be great if the organization that's representing managers actually educated that members governing body on what the current compensation is and what the current comparables are for the managers in the area or the region? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I
Absolutely.
mean, wouldn't it be great if wouldn't it be great if there was an association for managers that actually articulated to governing bodies why residency requirements are harmful and counterproductive and other issues that
Or even Joe, this, right? Or even what the cost value of a residency requirement should be.
yes, right, or the trade-off,
Right?
right? How to
At least
yeah,
that, right?
yeah,
Because some councils might say, "Hey, this is important for us," and that's fine. As a council, I firmly believe that councils should be able to make their own decisions, and I believe in local government, believe in the rule of local government, but everything has a cost.
yep,
And so, how cool would it be to be able to say, "Hey, look, if you want to have this requirement, here's the cost. Are you willing to pay the cost?"
yep. When we talk about the Google SEO footprint, I got city manager news that is going to be part of this whole effort that we're going to be allowing city managers to contribute to, so they can get some good Google SEO footprint on that, sharing their expertise. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do in that space, Micah, when it comes to reputation management on the internet that I don't think has been happening here to date. I'll unpack that at a later point in time for the folks who are going to join the organization. But I think there's a lot we can do on that front. Again, I don't want to overpromise, underdeliver, Micah, but we've been talking about creating a database or a ranking system for governing bodies as far as ranking cities when it comes to how volatile they are, how risky it is, what
Yep.
kind of churn and turnover they have with these city managers. I liken it. I've been comparing it or suggesting that you blend a Yelp directory rating review with Glassdoor with
Yeah.
like a Wikipedia page, right? And
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
creating this repository of information that's crowdsourced by our members into a database, a usable database, so that members understand the risk that they're entering based off the certain types of cities' history or the history of that city or that county.
No, I think that's what something we need too is to be able to understand going into new organizations to understand that and say, okay, hey, is this a good fit for me? Right? Is this something I want to do? Right? I want to take this risk. And everyone's different. Everyone's gonna have a different risk profile and different risk tolerance. But it's important to know what you're going into. I think it's critical.
Yep, yep. And there's just a lot of other things on that. I'm gonna give you another example of something that I think is really exciting, and that is this idea that you touched on earlier, Micah, about how we have a lot of talented, creative people in this profession. Okay,
Yeah. Yep.
and I've talked about the importance of having side hustles and secondary streams of income so that you are buttressed and protected or insulated from some of the upheaval that happens when you go through a separation. On this platform that we're creating, we're going to have the ability for city managers to impart their knowledge, their expertise in various formats, whether it's creating their own course on a certain subject or what have you. And what we're going to do, or putting on a webinar if they have a certain expertise that they want to share in a webinar. And what we're going to do is we're going to have these add on products like the courses and webinars that members can purchase that are being built or that are being constructed by other managers so that managers can actually earn income from this knowledge. And I think that's a pretty exciting proposition when it comes to supporting our peers and adding value, right?
I think it's amazing. Again, it goes back to the idea that there's so many people that have value. I don't want to say that everyone can build value because building value is extremely hard and it's difficult. Building something from nothing to making a profit is not an easy thing to do,
Right.
and it's not for everyone. Some people, it's not for everyone. It's fine. It's not. If it's not for you, that's fine, right? I don't want to pretend like it's something different. But for those who are ambitious, for those who want to try something new and stick their neck out and try a new bold initiative, who want to do something like city compensation, who want to do an AI course or whatever it is, who want to start their own podcast, those are the things that like we want to champion good ideas. We want to
Yes.
say, go do it. Go do something with your life and go do something great with your life because this is a volatile situation. This is a volatile career path. It is. It just happens to be that way. So why not have some security to be able to say, you know what, even if I get fired, I can last more than the 6 month severance that I'm going to get from my profession.
Right. But here's the thing too. We have the ability to help blow up other managers and make them the subject matter expert on such and such in the field too, right? By
Yeah.
this platform that
Yep.
we're building and so forth and
Yep.
so on. So yeah, we have a lot of exciting ideas that we are going to be embarking on. Again, can't unpack them all here. It wouldn't make sense to unpack them all here. I have a lot of grandiose ideas. Assuming we get the buy-in and the participation from the members, I'm really excited about the potential of this whole thing, Micah.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, I guess we'll just kind of move on to membership now. Okay, so I alluded to it earlier. Membership is only going to be for city and county managers and ACM DCMs.
Yep.
That's going to be the tier one or membership. That's going to be a $600 a year membership. We think that's an amazing value. Not to
Yeah.
think, I know it's an
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
value. Um, I
Yeah.
think we should be able to charge a lot more than that actually. But we're going to charge $600 a year for the executive suite, and then if you're an aspiring manager, if you're a department head, management analyst, and you want to be on the city manager track, and that's something that you're passionate about, there's going to be a separate tier for you guys, and that's going to be $300 a year. But you also have to be sponsored in by a manager who is a member of the organization.
And that again, Joe, that to your point, that's to protect the integrity of the organization.
Yes.
I think, and so that's such an important thing to have too. I know we talked about it before, but I think it's just so important. We want to protect the integrity of the organization. We want to do something historic, and we want to create a voice for city managers. And so that's why we're going to focus on executive suite city managers and that space, city and county managers in the executive suite level.
That's exactly right. So if you're interested in becoming a member, you're going to want to go to aame.org. That's AAME for American Association of Municipal Executives.org. There's going to be a Google form for you to fill out there to express your interest. And then what's going to happen is we're going to be launching on June 1st is the plan. So we're going to have a 30-day lead in as we start collecting membership information and start getting that out there. We're going to launch the platform on June 1st. I'm really excited. So if you want to get into the mix now and be a founding member, you're going to want to sign up immediately. You're going to want to put your name on that list so you can be in. And Micah, I'm really excited about the founding member component, right? We're going to have some special deals in the future, sneak peeks, exclusive access to things, exclusive offers, special discounts on different things that we're going to be working on in the future. I've talked to, again, dozens of managers over the last couple of weeks, and the number of managers who have said, hey, where do I send the check? Or I want to be on the ground floor. I know you and Micah are legit. I want to be in with this. I want to be in with you guys. I'm excited. It's been through the roof. I've been super stoked about it.
I'm not surprised, Joe. Like that that is the least surprising thing you've ever told me. Because but because we know the value, right? Because again, there's this hunger for community, there's this hunger for professional and personal development, and there's a hunger for advocacy. And those are the three things that we're focusing on. So
Yes.
it's not surprising that people are like, you know what, just I want to be part of that. And that's what we want to. Like if you want to be a founding member, come join us. The one thing about this organization is this: if you want to be a member where you just send your dues in and don't do anything and don't advocate and just sit back and don't do anything, this is probably not the organization for
We don't
you.
want you.
Yeah.
I'll be frank. I'll be frank,
Yep.
Micah. I don't want you. We want people who are going to be engaged, supporting their fellow peers, their colleagues in the profession, who are going to be active. And it's interesting you say that, because I actually forgot. I wanted to say this earlier and I forgot, Micah. Is the number of managers I've talked to who say, Joe, not only do I want you to tell me where to send the check, but I want to know what else I can do to help build this organization. What else can I do besides just send a check in? I want to get on the ground floor and I want to be a part of this historic thing that you guys are doing. That's really surprised me.
Exactly, Joe. This is the ask not what city management can do for you, ask what you can do for city management organization.
Yeah,
We want go-getters. We want real leaders in this space to come alongside with us and build a profession of city management the way it should be done.
that's right.
And Joe, that's such an exciting thing. Think about that, Joe. Like I get goosebumps just thinking about that, about how exciting that
The
is, you know?
idea that we are starting something new and original from scratch, historic, unprecedented, like I'm
Yeah,
just I'm so geeked on it, right? I'm just so geeked on it. And I want other people who are
I am
listening to this
too.
to say, "Hey, I want to be a part of it." Like
Yep.
I want to be a part of your tribe. I want to be a part of your group. I want to be a part of what you're doing. I've seen what you and Mike have done over the last year plus. I know you guys are gamers. I want to be in the mix with you guys. It's it's going to be a blast. We're going to be doing some amazing, historic, game changing things. And people who are listening to this podcast right now have a once in a life. This sounds crazy to say, but they have a once in a lifetime opportunity to be part of something truly amazing and historic, Micah. I truly believe that.
Yes, absolutely. This is like from May 1st when you listen to this podcast through I guess May 31st, June 1st, you have an opportunity to do something historic to make like people we all think about this show. We everyone who gets in this profession, most people, basically 99.999% of people get this profession, get into this profession because they want to make a difference.
Yes.
Here's your chance. Here's your chance to make a difference. Right now, right here, AAME. And this sounds like a terrible QVC commercial, but right now, right here. But I'm being serious though. Like this is it. Like this is the moment of if you want to make a difference, let's go make a difference right now. Let's do it.
But wait, there's more.
And
if you, if you,
if you buy this thing, it's free shipping for only $99.
no, I mean, in
No,
all seriousness, Micah, man, we are going to be doing some amazing things. You're an absolute savage. I'm a savage. We have some great
absolutely.
ideas, and the great thing is about it, though, and I want to remind the folks listening to this podcast right now. It's not about Joe Turner's ideas and Micah's ideas, right? If you are a founding
Exactly.
member, you are going to be engaged in the actual development and creation of the programs we're going to be putting out there, the direction of this organization, because this is a manager-centric organization. This is about you,
Yep.
the manager who
Yep.
is listening to this today, and we are going to make it about you. It's always going to be about you, and that is our mission. That is our mission.
Exactly. Yeah.
The American Association of Municipal Executives. It's not the Management Association, okay? It's for you, the manager, and we're going to do great things. And I hope everyone who's listening, no, I should say that. I don't actually hope everyone who's listening. I hope a lot of the people who are listening who are aligned with the messaging that you and I have as far as our passion for being efficient and effective with the taxpayers' dollars, who want to be innovative and do new things, who want to have an impact on the profession. I hope those people will seriously consider joining up, because we're going to do some really, really exciting stuff.
It's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to start this June 1st, Joe. I can't wait to do this. We're got a head start already. The conversations you've had, and I'm excited for it. Like, it's going to be
Absolutely.
amazing.
So again, it's only $600 a year for the executive suite members, city, county managers, ACM, DCMs. The aspiring managers are going to be $300. You got to be sponsored in by a manager who's going to be a member. That's it. We're going to be rolling that out here. So if you're interested in becoming a member, you need to go to aame.org. That's aame.org. Fill out the sign up form so we have your information and we can get started. And we're going to be looking to rock and roll on June 1st. So there you have it. I'm Joe Turner on behalf of Micah Gaudet. We are the founders of the American Association of Municipal Executives, and I am the host of the City Manager Unfiltered podcast, the most influential local government podcast in America. Make sure you sign up today if you want to be a part of something historic. Love to have you. Catch you next time.